All right, guys. I think we're live. Sorry about all the. We had a few technical issues getting the stream started. We should be live now. Just gonna wait to see if we get a few people responding. There might be a little bit of lag early on in the stream. That's sometimes the way with this. But yeah, we'll be talking through what is happening with transfer deadline day. Josh King, some of the players that we've been linked with already, and hopefully we can have a stress-free stream with the limited connectivity issues. Inside. Come on. So just put in the chat, guys. Just let me know that you can see us. As soon as I know that we're live properly, we'll get talking, guys. So you should have across the bottom of the a bit of news about both Josh King and Johnjoe Kenny. I'm also joined by the way, guys, by Paul, who's obviously our a regular fixture on the live streams, and also David from the County Road Bobblers. Dave, thanks for joining us, mate.
Always a pleasure, lads. Always a pleasure. I love your show, so it's always nice to join you. Just keeping up with the odds there, lads.
Yeah,
it looks like he's gone out.
Sorry, what was
nice
that?
one, mate. In and out with questions. Hopefully it clears up in a moment.
King's gone out to 6-4 to Everton now and shortened to Fulham 1-2.
Looks like that's a banker then.
1-2.
Josh King, so
okay.
Thoughts, lads?
Nice.
People are starting to report that he's chose Fulham over Everton, which if he has, says a lot about the player, to be honest with you. But hopefully it's just nonsense. We had this with Lukaku, didn't we, years ago when he had to go into West Brom and all that kind of stuff, and next minute it was announced at Everton. So
yeah, he was on the motorway driving to West Brom for a medical when he was actually in a hotel room with the Belgian squad.
Yeah. We've got quite a few people in the stream now. Thanks for joining, guys. Apologies, we were a bit late getting started. We had a bit of connectivity issues. Of course, it's deadline day on the day that happens. David, Johnjoe Kenny signed for Celtic on loan for the rest of the season. Just want to get your first impressions on that one, mate, because we were expecting Burnley for a while, weren't we? Or maybe Schalke, but Celtic's his destination. What do you make of that one?
It's probably a good move for him, personally. You know, he's been obviously Schalke is quite a big club, albeit that they're struggling as of late. And obviously, as we know, Celtic are a massive club as such for Scotland. You know, in Scotland, 60,000 fans every week. So, you know, he's going to be playing with a lot of pressure on him. He's going to have to perform. Celtic aren't doing too well at the moment, so it's going to be all hands to the pump. I think Shane Duffy struggled really there as well. But he needs a move. He's not playing football at Everton. He's not getting minutes. And it's doing him no good just coming on. I think he's come on left wing, didn't he, a couple of weeks ago as well? You know, he needs to be playing football at his age now. And sitting on our bench, his value's not going to go anywhere, really. So get them to Celtic, maybe get them a few competitive minutes. The hope is, obviously, 12 months left in his contract in the summer that we can potentially get, albeit a small fee for him. But it's definitely, you know, he's better off there than our bench.
Yeah, I agree with you there, mate. Paul, same question to you, mate. We've spoke about Johnjoe Kenny a little bit on the pre-match live streams. You happy he's out on loan? Would you like to see him permanently? Make of it?
I'm not too happy with this one, to be honest, or just don't get the reasoning behind it unless there's some sort of future fee agreed with Celtic. If we're just loaning him out just to keep him busy, that's good for him to get minutes. But what's the benefit to us? It's just a place on our bench that we're letting go. And by the signs of it, we're not replacing. I know he's not figured much so far this season, but you don't know. Holgate could get injured. Coleman's performances could be so bad and get to the point where we just can't consider him a first-team player anymore. I don't understand why we've sent him out on loan to a club that are probably not going to buy him in the summer. It's just a bit random for me. He's not on a big wage that we just needed to shift. So that's one of the ones that I think really we really didn't need to do. I hope I like to think that maybe there's more to that than we're seeing at the moment. Maybe Celtic have promised us a fee in the summer, or the idea is there's a lot of clubs who are interested in him, but they're not willing to stump up the money right now. So the thinking is maybe if we send him out on loan, it'll convince the likes of a Burnley or maybe a Schalke that he's a player who is worth them paying the money we want for them in the summer. But if we've just sent him out just to keep him busy for a couple of months, I just don't see the point.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, yeah, probably not going to sign him permanently. You never know, really. I'm not sure how long his contract is. I don't think. I think he's got quite a few years left on his deal. I don't think Carlo's going to use him, so I think this might have been the only one. Obviously, I think we know Burnley didn't want to match the fee. Michael Lloyd says we're blessed with good defenders. Get rid. Yeah, fair enough. Michael, good point. Blessed with good defenders, but right back is definitely a position that I think we should have strengthened. Terry, obviously of Toffee Blues fame, you'll have seen Terry on the channel quite a lot. Honestly, don't want Joshua King for those wages we may have kept Walcott. We wouldn't even notice a difference. Let him go Tony Khan's money at Fulham. What do you think of that one, Paul? Come to you first, because I don't know if you and Terry are going to be arguing or agreeing with this one.
He wasn't top of me choices of who I wanted, but I'm at this stage of the game, I was just happy that we got somebody. Walcott wasn't an option to play up front. I don't know if Terry meant it in that sense. That was why he thinks we should have kept him rather than get King. King's more of an target man type striker, isn't he? Someone we can throw it in the box to and hope that he can link up with somebody. We needed competition for Calvert-Lewin, or someone to throw in when Calvert-Lewin's maybe injured or just really off the pace and needs a rest. Richarlison, I know some people want to see him up front, but I don't believe Richarlison's a striker myself. I think whenever we've tried him as a number 9, he's had more poor games than good ones. Tosin is obviously gone. Ella Sims has gone on loan, so we weren't going to see any of him either before now at the end of the season. So I would have liked a striker who we could build around for the future and make him part of our long-term plans, but sometimes you've just got to think of the short term, haven't you? Because I think if he'd have just gone for the rest of the season with just Dominic Calvert-Lewin and no one else, then we were setting ourselves up for a big fall.
Yeah. I think, I don't know how old Josh King is. I don't
29.
know if it would have been a smart signing. 29? Oh, God, I thought he was younger than that. Yeah, 29. At 29, maybe the playing thing has a reason that he's gone to Fulham. He's guaranteed to play first team football there, isn't he? I don't know. I was a bit divided on it. It stunk of desperation from the very beginning. David, what did you make of Josh King? Because I know you're keeping up to date on the odds and what's happening for us. What did you make of that one, mate?
It's it does stink of a bit of a panic buy, if I'm honest. The broader thing that I worry about is that, if you look over the years, certainly over the last couple of decades, we've had some really good young strikers, knocking the door down to get in the first team. If you look, even the days back, Branch, Jeffers, Kazamatsu, Rooney, Vaughan, and obviously Big Victor as well. And where are these top young players all looking to come into the side? Now you look at sides like Chelsea, United, Arsenal, there's floods of these, first team ready players. Now, I suppose people would say Ella Sims, but, looking at Ella Sims and watching him play, the under-23 level is, significantly different in terms of, the expected skill levels. And at the moment, really speaking, Blackpool were the only side in for him. There wasn't any championship teams knocking the walls down to get him. But I would have liked to see Sims come out much sooner. And I just feel as though we haven't really got these players knocking the door down. Obviously, Tom Davies, I think Carlo could probably get the best out of him again. But King strikes me as a bigger worry, because where are these, these kind of top young first team ready players? Obviously, the two young lads came on the other day. I think that was more of a token gesture to say, that Everton rate them, but they're a long time off being first team ready as well. Gordon's obviously gone on loan because he needs to go out on loan. So we just don't seem to be producing a lot of our own talent at the moment that are ready to come to the first team and play as much. And there's got to be question marks as to why. Rushing Josh King through on the last day of the window and giving him ridiculous wages. It just doesn't feel right, to be honest with you. It feels like we're making mistakes that we've made before. In terms of King's ability, he's been reasonably consistent bar this year in the Premier League. You look at Zaha's stats and you marry them up to his. Again, bar this season where he hasn't seemed interested in Bournemouth. His stats are all right, but he's pushing 30. It's a lot of money potentially. And it stinks of a bit of a panic buy, which we need to be getting out of that stage now. Just seen Terry there. Umar's still available.
So's Dennis Strakwalersi.
I know he signed up. Apparently, he's playing in the fourth division in Italy, isn't he? At the moment, Strakwalersi. I seen the other day anyway.
Fair enough. Fourth division Italy. God knows what's that's like. Might as well be playing for Marine.
But no, it is worrying, isn't it? King could probably do a job, but the fact that we've loaned Gordon out, we've obviously sent Tosin off somewhere else. Sims has gone out. Granted that some of these players aren't players that we want in the first team, haven't been getting appearances. Bernard's only played 2 games for us, but looks like he's staying now. Tosin, when he's come off the bench, he hasn't really made any impact at all. But we are desperately short, and it is worrying. We shouldn't be in this position. As a club of our stature.
Yeah, I'll ask you a question now about Josh King. Let's say he comes in today, between now and the end of the season, do you each think he will score half a dozen goals? Yes or no?
Ability-wise, yeah. No, I think there's no question in that. If he comes in, he will add goals to us. I suppose I am getting caught up on the financial side of things, but
yeah, because we know Tosin wasn't going to score half a dozen goals between now and the end of the season, was he?
No.
If we brought him on a substitute in every game, or gave him a start every 1 in 3, he'd probably bag 2 or 3, if that, because he's just looked hopeless. Josh King, I know he's not done much for Bournemouth back on the Championship this year, but as you mentioned, you've got to just take into account what's the player's appetite. He thought he was going in the summer. It never happened. Maybe that was his own fault for asking for stupid money.
Sorry, guys. Can you hear me there? Dipped out a second.
Yeah, we can hear you, mate. We were just talking about Josh King. Where do you think now, if he comes in, would you bet money on the fact he will score half a dozen goals between now and the end of the season?
Well, yeah, there is, isn't there? I seen a stat the other day saying we haven't had a player that's come off the bench and scored goals this season.
That's shocking. That tells you all you need to know.
Yeah. The sorry state on that front, isn't it, really? And you can't really see where the game changes lie in the squad. There's only really Bernard there if Gordon's gone out on loan as well.
You take his size into account. Even if he had no ability on the ball, he's a big lump of a striker, isn't he? And you do need them, a lot of teams, because they'll make an impact against tired defenders when you throw them on and just throwing set pieces into the box. Tosin wasn't physical enough, and he wasn't quick enough to get in behind and hit them on the break. Players like King, or just any striker who's over 6 foot who can get his head on things, it's probably worth having them in the squad. If you just need a striker who is going to come off the bench for 5-10 minutes of a game and hope you can snatch a dodgy equaliser. I agree with you. If the money is what it's being reported as, that he's on a huge wage, that's not ideal. And you wonder what use we're going to have for him in about a year's time, and we'll be able to get rid of him. But sometimes you just got to bite the bullet, haven't you, and think about the here and now, because if we didn't get any striker in this today, then I was really, really worried for us for the rest of the season, because how do we know Calvert-Lewin's not going to pull up and tear his hamstring tomorrow against Leeds on Wednesday? We don't. If something happens to Calvert-Lewin, who do we put up front for the rest of the season?
I think Terry's just saying there.
Terry. Terry's weighing in there with a few choices for our third choice striker. He's got Gylfi Sigurdsson as our third choice striker. Yeah, he is probably. Terry is also in the chat. Umar is still available on a free. Don't call it a comeback. Yeah.
I would rather play
basically,
Duncan
we don't have
Ferguson up
anyone
front now. I'd rather play Duncan Ferguson up front now.
I agree with you, mate.
50,
yeah.
He's nearly 50 than play Gylfi Sigurdsson. Gylfi Sigurdsson does not belong in the team, especially not in a position that he's not even his proper role.
No, it's a scary thought. When we were watching the Wolves game, I know we got the win, but Gylfi Sigurdsson is a false nine. Sometimes he looks like a false football player. Never mind a false nine. So it's conceivable we're going to be in a place where we're going to have to rely on him.
I think we're going to be struggling. I really just hope he doesn't get an injury like what he got a couple of weeks ago where he was out for a few weeks, because no Tosin now. Sigurdsson is not going to... The fact that we're even thinking about it's just a bit stupid, really, isn't it? Also, no Josh King coming in. It just puts you on edge as well, because it hasn't happened yet, and you're thinking about it even more. You're preparing for when it does happen. Heard that if King doesn't come, Gordon stays. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's only been linked with a move to Preston, hasn't he? He hasn't gone permanently yet.
I read that it was done.
He hasn't gone for sure yet. I'm not sure. I seen that he was linked to a move. I heard he was linked with a move to Preston. That's pretty much it.
Just looking at the timeline here, lads, and it looks as people are saying that we've actually offered King a 6-month loan deal initially. That's a bit weird because he's out of contract.
Someone had that in the chat. Yeah, someone had that. Evertonian Luke had that in the chat. He was only offering King a 6-month contract.
That sounds sensible, but if you're Josh King, are you going to take that over a proper contract with Fulham? You'd be stupid too. Really, I wouldn't blame him one bit.
Sorry, mate. Go on.
No, I wasn't going to say anything. Just if we don't get Josh King now, that'll be why, because we've offered him a 6-month loan, and he's going to turn his nose up at that when he's got a legitimate offer from Fulham on the table.
Paul Joyce tweeted 2 hours ago, Gordon has moved to Preston on loan.
Gordon's done then.
I'm guessing,
Gordon's done.
Yeah. God, this is worrying me now, because we've let go of our 15 players and haven't signed any. Oh, God, right. So if Gordon goes, lads, no Tosin. Bernard is staying, though. It's on Sky now. I'll add it to the bit across the bottom of the screen. Bernard's moved to Al Nassr's, falling apart. So I'm sorry, Paul. It looks like we're keeping Bernard till the end of the season.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe it's just a game of bluff there, and because I know their window is open for a bit longer. So it wouldn't shock me if they come back in for them in the next couple of days and look to do the deal again. Maybe they've pulled out at the last minute just to try and haggle us down a little bit and get us to panic. But if Paul Joyce says Gordon is gone to Preston, then it's done, basically. He's pretty much on his way to Preston, literally on the motorway. Now, part of me thinks that the club would not sanction that unless they were absolutely sure that they were going to get King in. So I wouldn't be shocked if all this rumour that he's actually going to go to Fulham is maybe just the bookies being mischievous and trying to throw people off. Because we touched on it earlier on. We hear about all these last-minute snags or supposed last-minute snags that come up, and supporters get really anxious and wonder what the hell's going on, and you're refreshing your timeline every minute to see if there's any update, and it turns out that there was nothing to worry about all along. So if Anthony Gordon is gone, and I'm absolutely sure he will have done, if Paul Joyce has tweeted it saying he's gone, then I don't think the club would sanction that unless they were sure that King was going to get done. So
Adam P in the chat there, Fabrizio Romano just said we're signing Josh King. EFC Design also says the same thing. I hope we're not being trolled here, because I'm going to check it. It looks like there might be a little twist in the tail. Terry has also just said the Sky reckon King is possible 6-month deal with option to extend. I've just typed his name in on Twitter because stuff usually comes up there. Everton is still confident he can strike a deal for Josh King.
Who's that?
On his
Saying there's
Instagram
no
live,
contract?
apparently, Paul.
If Fabrizio Romano says
Yeah.
it, and Paul Joyce is saying that Gordon's already gone, then that really eases my nerves, and they're legitimate sources to believe rather than just bookmakers, to be honest.
Alan Myers is now saying as well that we've offered a 6-month deal. To be honest with you, if we were to give him a 6-month contract, I don't know what the benefit is for Bournemouth in that. But, you know, who am I to complain? If we get him for 6 months, I don't think he can do any harm. You know, and like you say, there's goals off the bench there, Paul, at the very least, and he is versatile. But if the financials are right and it is just a 6-month loan, then, you know, it looks a lot better as a deal.
Bournemouth might just be wanting to get him out the door because, as we've said, he hasn't scored for them this season. It sounds like he's made it clear that he's not interested and he doesn't want to be there any second longer than he has to be. Maybe whoever the manager is now has just decided, look, just let him. We're not going to get any money for him now. 6 months out from his deal expiring, just let him go for nothing, and it's just one less headache for me to worry about because I don't want him around the training ground, basically moping and bringing everyone down when we're chasing promotion. That's what that sounds. I think that's what will have happened there.
ESC Design in the chat there says, go on Mighty Blues Twitter. I'm just looking on Cam's Twitter. Yeah, he's tweeted, madness, there's some really reliable sources believe King will join Everton and other reliable sources believe he will join Fulham. I think stay tuned for this one because it seems to be getting a bit more, swaying a bit more in our favour now than it was about half an hour ago. And Vinny O'Connor on Sky there.
Space within that squad as well. They would want further backup, of course, with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, with Cenk Tosun having already been allowed to go on loan to Besiktas as well, and Josh King emerged as that target as well. What we understand is part of Everton's thinking that Josh King is considered option. But we understand the offer to move to Goodison is a 6-month contract. And when that deal concludes, Josh King could sign an extension or potentially leave Goodison as a free agent as well. As you say, King is also considering that proposal from Fulham at the moment. It's been one of those situations as well where Everton have been looking at Anthony Gordon's future. And we thought that if they weren't going to be able to get someone in, then that would mean Anthony Gordon staying put. Well, there's still potential for him to move loan to Preston North End. So if Everton are happy to let him go, it may be suggested that.
I mean, that's 2 minutes ago. And he says it still could happen. I just don't know what's going to happen with that one.
We were speaking.
Yeah, go on.
You were speaking about this before on the group chat and the bobblers. And if you discard this season, right? If you look at the last few seasons, so 1920, one player's had 4 goals and 3 assists. King's had 12 and 3 assists. The season before, this is Zaha, by the way. Zaha's had 10 goals and 5 assists. King's got 8 goals and 3 assists. Season before that, 17-18. Zaha's got 9 goals and 3 assists. King's got 16 goals and 2 assists. So the other side of it is if he was to sign Zaha for 30-odd million, you'd have lots of Blues that would be really excited about that prospect and giving him a load of money. But the only difference between Zaha and King, obviously, is this season. You know, Zaha's had that big upturn in form and King's really been moping about in Bournemouth. But if you look at their form and the stats, goals and assists in the last 5 years, they're not actually too different. So, you know, again, you know, the finances are right and it is a 6-month deal. So we've got much to lose there. You just hope that the numbers that we've seen this season are attached to the fact that he doesn't want to be at Bournemouth as opposed to a dip in his form with age.
If that's 6 months,
yeah.
Go on, Stephen.
I mean, no, go on. You go on, Paul. Yeah.
I was just going to say, if that 6-month deal is what we've offered King, and he decides to take that over whatever Fulham are offering him, which you think would be a long-term deal, then that says a lot about Ancelotti's pulling power and how much King believes in the project, because he could make more money going to Fulham than he would coming here for 6 months on 100 grand, whatever it is. So that brings some good feeling to me, that it makes me think, right, they must have sat down with him in an office and sold him the project, and he's decided, right, even having a 6-month audition is better if it means I can be part of this long term. I'd rather sit here and audition for 6 months to prove to this club and this manager that I can be part of this long-term vision that they're talking about, rather than just go to Fulham and basically have not an easy life, but a very simple life. I've just got to go down there, score some goals, make sure we stay up, and no one will ever bother me or get on me back. So that's good to hear if Josh King is genuinely interested in a 6-month deal with Everton, because even if he's on a big wage during that 6 months, it proves that he wants to be here for the long term and he believes in himself that he can prove himself in that 6 months to get a longer deal.
I think you're quite right there, Paul.
No, go on, David. Sorry.
I think you're quite right there, Paul, because motivation's a big thing. You know, obviously, when you get to that tail end of your career, you've got to ask, you know, why does this player want to join the football club? Is it one last deal, you know, to get big money? Fulham would, like you say, there would have been a deal that you'd expect them to make if it was money orientated. You know, if you get a player that genuinely has that motivation, sometimes why I like these loan deals, because it, you know, it gives them that bit of a carrot at the end of the stick, you know, to actually come in and make a big impact. I mean, the other good side of things, he does score a few screamers as well. You know, I think sometimes we don't take enough chances outside the, you know, the box. You know, we're trying to walk the ball in at times. In fact, I think we may have scored one of the highest in the league, and you know, 6-yard tap-ins as such. I think, as far as I can remember, I can only remember Hammers' goal against West Brom, where we've actually had a bit of a go from the edge of the box and scores. So it would be nice to have that type of player who can, you know, when teams are backing off, can have a shot and, you know, get a goal that way as well.
Other than that Hammers goal the other day, I can't think of the last time we had a really great goal that you just love to replay loads, and they'll probably stick it on a poster or something like that. The player celebrating. Yeah, essentially. Yeah, we haven't had one of those goals in ages. Before Hammers' one, the last one that springs to mind was maybe Sigurdsson's one away at Leicester about 2-3 years ago. Maybe there's some ones that I've forgotten about, but it just seems like we don't score beautiful goals anymore. They're always just tap-ins or well-worked moves that are nice on the eye, but they're not ones that are going to be on Sky, as you said.
Yeah. Got a few comments to read out, guys. We'll just respond to a few. Manuel Herrera asked what time where we are. It is 22 minutes past 10 where we are, mate. So about 40 minutes left of the window. He would get a start at Fulham, as Mitrovic is shocking. I haven't watched much of Alexander Mitrovic lately, Paul. Have any of yous or Dave?
I don't think he's been started for him, has he?
I don't know what's happened to him. I don't know what's happened to him. He hasn't been starting, no, but he hasn't been making any difference when he does get on the pitch. He obviously, Parker doesn't like playing with a traditional number 9. He likes playing with a forward 3, which is sort of the in vogue thing to do right now. But Mitrovic, when he was in the league a couple of seasons ago, was a really good striker who we got linked with, and a lot of players, or a lot of supporters rather, were bang up for signing him, thinking he'd make a big difference. I'm surprised that he stayed at Fulham in the Championship. I think he should have moved on that year. And ever since he's come back up to the Premier League, he just looks like a shadow of the player he was a couple of seasons ago. So admittedly, I haven't kept up with him. Maybe he's had injuries. Maybe he's being asked to do a different role in the team now. But yeah, there's just one of those players who looked really good for a year, 18 months, and it's just tailed off after that. Maybe he's missed the boat on his career now.
I've never been the biggest fan of Mitrovic myself, even when he was at Newcastle. But I can't remember. I think he did play against us though earlier on in the season. Adam P talking about Gbamin there, about how he's going to be give us more squad depth. Yeah, Adam. But realistically, when are we going to see Gbamin? Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. We're not going to see him soon, I don't think. If he ever plays a game for Everton, that's the thing. Is he going to be like another Jonas Lossell? It's getting at that point now. Is he going to be a player that's going to sit there and eventually he's not going to be very good when he comes back? I mean, Andre Gomez was a decent player before he got a bad injury and came back as a shadow of the player he was. So I don't really think... I mean, obviously I want him to do well, but... I think we can't be putting too much pressure on. Like, we can't be putting too much weight in the Gbamin stuff, because We need players for the here and now.
Gbamin is like that puppy that your mum and dad promise that you're going to get if you be good, and then you never ever get it. And then when you're an adult, you think, why did my mum and dad never come through and get me that pet that they always promised me? I would have loved that. It's what he is. He's this thing that you look forward to and you look forward to and you look forward to, and it's probably never ever going to come to fruition with Gbamin. So I'd love it if he turned it round and he proved to be a cracking player and he was worth the wait and everyone is loving having him here. But it just seems like a lot of fans have made their minds up on him now, and there's just no way back in their minds. Now, I know that's not his fault, and it's probably very unfair, but that's just life sometimes. Wrong in the right place at the wrong time, or wrong place at the right time.
Yeah, I think he's got like a. It'll be a quiz question, I think, coming to the end, because let's be honest, Paul, for him to come back now and outdo his like the bad injuries he's had, he's gonna have to be some player. Let's be honest, he's gonna have to be a really, really good player for us, for him to come back and for him to come back and be like, wow, this was worth the wait, because we waited that long for him. It's just like, it's a bit like when a really good film you think gets delayed about 15 times, and when it comes out it wasn't worth it. He's like the Batman versus Superman of football. He's just it's doing me head in, really, and I'd like to see maybe like a I'd like to see a midfielder that's going to come on and play right now. Dave, what do you make of Gbamin?
It does seem like a bit of a myth. Sometimes you wonder if, you hear certain names of footballers and you actually wonder if they're real. Like the lesser spotted Gbamin, not many people have seen him. I know, but he does seem to be one of these extinct players. That does he actually exist? Now, obviously, he has been really unlucky. I think, obviously, he was rushed into the side where Silva shouldn't have been playing, and the rumours was he was told at that time that he shouldn't have really played that game. I seen Ancelotti talking about him the other day, saying he was watching YouTube clips of him, and I think you'd have to go to YouTube to actually see him play. So it's like
that's amazing. That he's gone full Everton within a year. That's amazing. Like, our job is complete. He's now looking at YouTube to decide whether the player's any reason that.
But it's a big ask again. You've got rushing him back now. He hasn't played that much football this season. The games are coming thick and fast. Would you want to rush Gbamin back into a side? Probably not. Certainly when he's just come back from that major injury again. But it's quite ironic, really. We get linked with Idrissa Gana Gueye as such. But he was Gbamin was brought in to replace him. 2 years later, we're now linked back to Ghana, and Gbamin's played one or two games.
Yeah. Seen an amazing tweet about that, and it was we sold Gana Gueye and brought Gbamin in to replace Gana Gueye. Imagine if we signed Gana Gueye to replace Gbamin, and then next season we replaced Gana Gueye with Gbamin again, or something like that. Wormy Spoon says he is like Wonder Woman 1984. I haven't seen that one. I gave up on the DCEU at Batman versus Superman, so I haven't seen any of the Wonder Womans yet. But yeah, I'm guessing he's a bit like that. Let's see if we've got any more good comments to read.
I think the club have let Gbamin down. Really,
yeah, sorry,
though.
Paul,
I think the club have really let Gbamin down, though, and I'll explain what I mean by that, because I'm sure people are going to think, well, they've paid for all his rehab and all his operations and stuff like that. But over the past 8-9 months that he's been gone, since he got that second injury, major injury, there's just been nothing. I think the club have made no efforts at all to kind of introduce him to the fan base and get everyone rooting for him. There's been no interviews on the website. There's been no social media updates. There's been hardly any mention of him in press conferences. There's been no photographs of him uploaded. There's not even been on the website, on the injury section, a rough estimate of when he could be available. It was just saying unknown whenever you looked at it. It just seems like the club.
It's like chucking a Hermes parcel, this, Paul.
It just feels like the club has went out of its way to just whitewash him from existence. And supporters can't be blamed for not feeling sorry for him and not rooting for him when they don't know anything about the fella. There's been no effort to endear him to the fan base and get everyone to see what type of personality he is and to think, oh, he looks like a really good lad. Like, I can't wait till he's back and he's helping us out on the pitch. It just feels like the club have just not tossed him in the bin, but just been happy to let him go out in the wilderness on his own. And make no effort to get supporters to remember him. I think the club could have just done so much more with that to get his personality across. And if they'd have done that, then I think supporters wouldn't be as cruel as they have been over the past couple of months, just writing them off so much.
It makes you wonder though, because Luca Dean come back from a 12-week injury after 6 weeks, and now he's playing pretty well again. So you don't really know, Paul. I agree with you on that though, that he hasn't really been. I would have liked him maybe, obviously before the pandemic and that. Oh, he's out like signing autographs in the Everton shop or something, but nothing like that ever happens. But Dominic Martin there just wanted to answer this question. Hi guys. Great show, Leeds fan here. Just saw Paul on All Leeds. Is Alan injured for Wednesday? That would help us. I think he is out, mate. I think he's back next week, the week after for us. So, thanks for coming over. The guys at All Leeds are really great as well. We spoke to them on the channel before if you want to go and see them. Let me just say, he also says, P.S. don't think King is that good. We're sort of having the same discussion between ourselves, Dominic. It's we're sort of wondering whether it's it's really worth it for 6 months, and is he still going to be here? Lads, we've been linked with so many players throughout this window so far. Just want to go through a couple. It's a good time to recap on whether you would have had these players or not. So Sami Khedira, very early in the window, was one that we were talking about. Dave, what did you make of that one?
It's another one we're trying to get away from, isn't it? Ultimately we're trying to get the squad age to a certain age where we can compete, and they're all coming to their peak at the same time. There's a bit of short-termism in some of the signs in the sun, but I think we need them as a squad. What we don't want to be doing is come top-heavy of players at the wrong side of their careers on big wages. Now that's a bit of contradicting terms, because we're going to then say that Josh King can add something, but Sami Khedira hasn't played much football. The last few years he's had a lot of bad injuries, and it would have been a mistake.
Yeah. Just want to fill you in there, guys. Terry's back in the chat again. Alan Myers says, don't believe anything about King choosing Fulham. So, yeah, it's getting exciting, this one now. Going back to the players that we've spoke about. Sorry, Paul, you're going to say something there?
I was going to say, that doesn't surprise me. That just, all those Fulham King links were what I thought they were. Just bookmakers being naughty, trying to fool people into lumping on. Because, as I touched on earlier on, Paul Joyce says Gordon's gone to Preston. We know Joyce doesn't tweet unless it's 100% done. And there's no way I think we'd have loaned Gordon out to Preston unless the deal was done or going to be done. So, yeah, that doesn't shock me at all.
Yeah.
Alan Myers has just tweeted.
People talking today about it's been coming out a bit more. Isco, that was a weird one, wasn't it? Because we were linked with Isco for like a couple of days. I personally would have loved Isco. I remember talking to Owen on the one of the match previews. He really didn't want Isco. So, yeah, just want to get you just your opinion, guys, on a couple of players we've been linked with. Isco, David, would you have taken him?
Depends on the deal. If it's a loan again, the Euros coming up in the summer, could Isco come in and a bit of motivation to get into the Spain squad and do well? Maybe. Do we want to be spending massive money on Isco? I don't know enough about him to suggest that we should or we shouldn't. I suppose Carla would be the one to ask on that one. But there's no doubt there's talent. But again, he's one of these players. Last 12 months, couple of years, he has struggled a bit. But then again, James did, didn't he? When he was under Zidane as well. So for me, I'll sit on the fence on that one.
Let me just add a comment there. Joe says 30 minutes left. No way it will get done. Joe, yeah, you got to remember, it's like the typical transfer, typical transfer deadline day bingo. Like 1 a.m. It's the 11 o'clock is never the end of the deadline. There's always stuff runs over a little bit, and there's always Sky always give you the stuff about the deal sheet as well, don't they? So I think there is definitely time for it to be done, and I'm just trying to keep up to date with what's happening with Josh King, if anything comes. Sky Sports have said he is joining Everton. That's just come from John in the chat then. I don't know. I've got Sky on. I'm waiting to see if it comes up. But John says Sky Sports have said he's joining Everton.
There's a quality
to see a pop up.
a quality one before by Paul Brown on Twitter. You always get the funny tweets. So it's normally Keith Azul, normally rules on transfer deadline day. But Paul Brown put up before saying Josh King will be pushing to get into the England squad for the Euros as well, obviously on the winds up.
I've seen that one.
He's not getting in the Norway team over Haaland, is he?
Oh no! Do you know? Is how unlucky is that though? How
he's got a better chance of getting in the England
King
team than he has for Norway.
Yeah, how unlucky is Josh King in the fact that there's never really any decent Norwegian players, and then the only time he's come round, one of the best strikers in the world, in Erling Haaland, plays his exact position. It's just mental. Just waiting to see if something pops up on my screen there. Nothing yet. But as John said, and Sky Sports said he's joining Everton. Well, guys, just wanted to get your opinion. Joshua Zirkzee joined Parma today. What do you make of that? Would you have liked us to have pursued that one a little bit more, Dave?
Good age, isn't he? Obviously highly rated. He came to us on that trial. Obviously, we were interested in him. So I wouldn't have lost any sleep. He's a good age to make something of himself. But whether he could have made an impact for the next 6 months in the team would have been questionable. I think it would have been more of a long-term signing. So I won't lose any sleep over it, to be honest with you. The fact that Parma were the only other club coming in for him, maybe that tells you a bit.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, why are Bayern letting him go if he's the next big thing, really. Diego Crespo's hit the nail on the head there in the chat. He says, "Hi lads, until Everton does not get a reliable goalkeeper, there is not any chance to get any European position." Yeah, I agree with you, Diego. I think we need a new goalkeeper, but we'll wait till the summer and hopefully get a big name in when that one comes around. Dave, I haven't spoke to you about this because it seems to split opinion. Do you think we need a goalkeeper to replace Jordan Pickford? I'm putting you on the spot a bit there, sorry, but
yeah, my mind's changes a lot on this. I think there's not a lot of great keepers out there at the moment. My question, I'd turn it on its head, is who would we get instead, and who would buy Jordan Pickford off us? That becomes a harder question sometimes. Obviously, that bit of a massive outlay on him, didn't we? £30 million at the time. It's it's a drop in the ocean for Kepa, but he's making mistakes. He is still of a decent age for a keeper, 26. But like you say, consistency is important, and he does need to cut these mistakes out of his game. Every time he makes one, I think he gets a step closer from eventually leaving Everton Football Club. But I wouldn't say it's all lost yet. But he needs to book his ideas up. Eventually, I think Carlo will get to a point of just saying, right, no more. Let's get someone else in. But the question mark is who was we getting and how much we can get for Jordan Pickford as well. It's not an easy one, is it, at times? But yeah, I think consistency is important, especially for a keeper.
Yeah. Just coming up there, guys. Mark McAdam from Sky Sports. It's Everton. Literally, that's his tweet. I'll see if you can see that there, guys. He's just tweeted, "It's Everton." Looks like it's going to happen. All of a sudden, it's come out of absolutely nowhere. All of a sudden,
I've just read Jacob Steinberg for The Guardian. He's just tweeted, "Fulham expecting King to join Everton, which should mean that Major goes to Fulham on loan." That was the striker who was at Sunderland a couple of years ago and was banging them in League One. Then he got a move to Bordeaux, and I don't think it's worked out. So looks like Fulham are turning to him instead and hoping he can come in and do something.
Yeah. It's everywhere now, lads. Apparently, it's near enough done.
I think that's a really good deal for Fulham, to be honest. Yeah, I think that's a good deal as well. Josh Madger, obviously, he's a talented lad. Whether he's Premier League level is another question. But if Fulham don't stay up, Josh Madger would be a really good Championship striker. Obviously, King doesn't really appear to be too interested in playing for Bournemouth in the Championship. So, in terms of suiting all parties, that might be the best deal all around, especially if we do get him for 6 months. Terry McAllister. It's terrible, but it's Everton.
Yeah, I just thought Terry's really keeping us going in the chat here. Terry's doing a great job. It's terrible. He had a really good one before. Umar's a prince, but Joshua's a king. I absolutely love that. If that's not the headline on the Everton website, then I do not know what is. That's unbelievable. Let's see if we've got anyone else. Josh King. What's that say? Guys, just trying to put Josh King might be okay. Okay, I said earlier that I didn't think he was good, but that's coming from someone who thought Bamford was not good. Yeah, he's doing well this season, Bamford, Dominic. So yeah, we never know what's going to happen in football. Harry Connor, will he be able to play versus Leeds? From history, no, I don't think so. We don't know how fit he is either. If it goes through tonight, I don't see it coming up. We've got a bit of breaking news just coming through on Sky there as well. So yeah, I'm not too sure if he'll be able to if he'll be able to play. And Joshua, because he'll play. Yeah, fair enough.
There's an interesting one for you. The news is that it is a 6-month deal, but they might receive up to 5 million potentially on the deal. Someone put up before that I think most Premier League places are worth 2 million. So if he manages to secure us an extra 7, 8, 9 points, and we end up 2 or 3 places with the league and in Europe, I suppose some of the money we've wasted over the year, 5 million's not potentially a lot in comparison to some of them. Certainly likes a Lossell who's been on that wage and barely put a shirt on for the first team. Quite an interesting deal. I can't remember seeing many of them where he's got a short-term contract and it's a permanent transfer as well.
It just goes to show what I said earlier on, that obviously we've convinced him that coming here for 6 months is better than going to Fulham and getting a 3-4 year deal. He's backing himself to come here and prove that he's good enough to get a long-term deal with us. And obviously, whatever we said to him in the negotiation room has convinced him that even coming here for 6 months and having basically a glorified audition is worth accepting, because Ancelotti's your manager. You're going to be playing with James Rodriguez, and maybe they've promised them other signings are going to be coming in the summer, and he's thought, you know what, I'll have a bit of this. Even if they're not guaranteeing me that I'm going to be part of the long-term future, I'm going to go there and I'm going to prove to them that I want to be part of this long-term vision that they're describing.
Paul, I'm going to ask you the question, and Steve, I'm turning it on you. I'm going to ask you a question as well. If you were if I was to say to you both now, you don't have to work for this length of time, and you can either go on holiday with Carlo to Italy for 2 months, or you can have a year off with Scott Parker, what would you do? I'd definitely have the 2 months with Carlo personally. On the
100%. 100%.
Why would you want
the fact that we're in lockdown at the moment, been off for nearly 2 months anyway? Then yeah, go on. 2 months with Carlo, that'd be amazing. Go watch some footy. Some nice expensive wine. It'd be lovely. It's the same as
6 months. It's the same, isn't it? 6 months with Carlo or 3 years, as it is with Scott Parker, because that was the contract on offer. And 6 months with Carlo is vital time for any footballer, isn't it? Especially at his end of the career.
Do you know what, Dave? You've summed that up.
Yeah, I didn't get that for a moment then. I thought it was like some sort of joke, which like maybe Scott Parker's someone worth going with for a year. I was like, I think I'd rather just go. I think I'd rather just go to work. I didn't get that for a minute then. So you summed it up.
Don't want any time off. You've got to go away with Scotty Parker. But it's looking like a good deal. That on Ted, hasn't it?
Fair, they're the two smartest managers in the Premier League. Scott Parker looks like his hair's always perfect. He's always got a perfectly pressed suit on. And Carlo's he's the Don, any really. Tenny is back in the chat again. Deploy the Bill Kenwright fax machine. Yeah, deploy it right now because it looks like this one might be happening. Have we got any more? Sebastian Segura. Sorry, guys, go on.
I was going to say, I'd be interested to know the chat. Who's the worst transfer story that you've ever seen on the transfer deadline day? The one that's collapsed at the last minute when you'd be most gutted about.
Leave them below, guys, because we'll read through a few of them and see what your favourite one is. They've just rolled Peter Odd and Wingy out on Sky Sports News as well to talk about something that happened about 10 years ago. So why don't we just follow suit? Sebastian in the chat says, hey bro, Luis Muriel. I don't know who Luis Muriel's playing for at the moment. I remember back on FIFA about 5 or 6 years ago, he was brilliant. So yeah, he would have been great then. Terry is absolutely cracking me up right now. Shine the Leroy fist. Yeah. Hang on, let me just get it up on the stream there. Shine the Leroy fist signal into the sky. Yeah, I remember that one. Do you know what my memory I've got of Leroy Fair with that whole thing was when we were linked to him on deadline day. My dad spent about 2 hours trying to pronounce Eredivisie, like because he obviously was playing for PSV then, wasn't he? And that's my memory of Leroy Fair. All right, Dave, you've got the chat going with a few transfer ones. Ojiji Rafoe signed deadline date, then no work permit the next day.
Do you remember that weird one, like not long ago, where the Everton account got hacked and he's tweeted that we'd signed Everton Suarez? That was a weird one.
No, I don't remember that. When was that?
I think it was, might have been, people might be able to tell us on the chat there, but it was about 18 months ago. We put a tweet out for one of the official accounts. I think it was like Fan Services or EFC Engagement to say Everton have completed the signing of Everton Suarez, and it all turned out to be like a hoax that had been hacked. But we've had some strange transfer stories over the years, haven't we? And it always seems to happen on the deadline day as well. So it'll be nice to see this one actually get off the line for the right reasons.
The transfer that I remember being most gutted about, now I'm not gutted about it now in hindsight, but I was at the time, was Sissoko, when he basically turned his mobile phone off and refused to speak to Koeman and went to Spurs. Because I remember being out with my friend in town. I think Terry might have been there actually, and we were having a shisha, and we had looked at Sky Sports News saying that basically Sissoko was coming to Everton, and I thought, yep, we'll have a bit of that. It was our first season with Mashiri's money, basically, and it was going to be our big statement signing after years of basically having to make do with loans and little 3-4 million jobs. It was our first big £20 million signing for ages, and it just all seemed to collapse within 20 minutes. I remember getting home at like 10:30, and all of a sudden the deal just wasn't happening. At 10:15, the deal was done. He was coming to Everton, and then by the time I got off the train again and got back at my house, it was like it was over. He wasn't coming. He was going to Spurs. It was the club was scrambling, trying to get him to change his mind, but he wasn't answering the phone. It was just a crazy one, and I remember being so annoyed and angry that I was in a mood all of the next day when I went into work. And the lad in work asked me, who was an Evertonian, and he said, Paul, what happened with Sissoko? And he said, I went to bed at about 9 o'clock thinking that the deal was done. I woke up this morning and thought he hadn't signed for us. And I just looked at him and said, I don't know anything, mate. I was out in town, waiting at the train station, and thinking the deal was done. By the time I got off the train, the deal was over. I don't know what happened. So that was a really, really bad one.
Terry's just put one up, and this is a bit of a vintage one. This nothing beats chasing Sean Davies all summer, only for him to fail his medical. When we booed him at Goodison that season, as if it was his fault. The Everton medicals always seemed to. I always envisaged them like you had to kind of like outswim a load of sharks for 100 meters. Then you had to. It was like the gladiators. You like Wolf was chasing you down. You had like the travelator at the ends because there were that many people who used to fail the Everton medicals. I always wondered what are they actually like.
David Moyes probably had an hand in that because we know he was a hard taskmaster on the training ground. So it was probably him who was telling the medical staff to look out for things. And if this player can't pass this sort of physical exam, then I'm not interested in him because he's not going to be able to play the style of football I want. So it wouldn't shock me if the medicals have changed over the years, that it was easier to pass them under a certain manager than it was under another.
There some skeptics there saying ACL injury for King. What's the bets on it? 15 minutes into his EFC game. Stop that. Stop cursing it.
Knowing him, he'll get pulled over on the drive up here by the police, asking where he's going in a lockdown. And that will stop him playing against Leeds.
Yeah. That's the best shout so far. Poll on our Twitter, out of 2,480 votes, 66% Everton fans won Josh King. So it looks like he's going to have to prove a few people wrong when he gets here, but hopefully he proves them wrong. Hopefully he does prove them wrong when he gets here. Sorry guys, I got kicked out again there. What were you talking about? He's still talking about the older dead were left in the chat.
Yeah, I was telling him a story about how I thought Sissoko was basically an Everton player when I was in town coming home from a shisha with my friends, and then by the time I got off the train, 20 minutes later, he'd gone to Tottenham, and I had no idea what had happened. We found out afterwards that basically we had a plane waiting for him, a private jet, and that he didn't turn up at the airport, and he turned his mobile phone off, and Koeman was ringing him to find out where he was.
Yeah, I remember that one. That was a mad one. And do you wish he had answered his phone, Paul? Do you wish he had turned up?
No, I was saying that I was gutted at the time, but in hindsight, it was probably the right thing because he's not pulled any trees up in his Tottenham career, has he? I do think he's a good player, but I don't think he'd have been the massive difference maker that a lot of us were assuming he was going to be at the time. I think he would have just been one of these players who was kind of just, he was here for a bit, he did okay, and then he eventually just moved on, and there's not really much to say about him. Like Bernard, maybe, or Andre Gomez, the way it's looking. It's just one of these players who we thought a lot of when they first got here, and then they just ultimately didn't produce what we thought they were going to.
Yeah, I know he's meant to be like a really good professional, and he's meant to be like a really good character at the club. And I know Mourinho really likes him, so you don't know how it could have worked. But I think he was definitely a different player at Newcastle and at Tottenham. He's gone more into like a defensive sort of player that's less of a box-to-box midfielder. Couple more names that Everton were linked with during the window that obviously haven't happened. Diego Costa was linked earlier on with it's apparently, wasn't it a top 6 club we're interested in him or something like that. I can see Paul rolling his eyes there already.
Rubbish. That was just his agent putting stuff out to try and generate some interest in him. There's a reason no one will touch Diego Costa, and as soon as he gets the okay to go over there, he'll probably end up in China. He's not coming back to the Premier League. No Premier League club's stupid enough. Looks like Stephen's frozen again. Oh, now you're back?
Yeah. No, I'm back, mate. I thought I was waiting for you today. I was waiting to see if you'd finished. Yeah, I don't know if I would have taken him. I would. Sorry, mate, go on.
No, go on,
mate. Yeah, sorry, lads. I'm having an absolute nightmare with me connection tonight. Breaking news there from Jason Burt from The Telegraph. Josh King is joining Everton on a short-term deal until the end of the season. Deal could cost $5 million. And people are going $5 million for that. If he comes in for 6 months, if he's all right to replace Dominic Calvert-Lewin if he gets injured, if he scores a few goals and, I don't know, he scores a few important goals and wins his matches, $5 million's got to be worth it, hasn't it?
He's going to look mightily stupid if this turns out to be a good bit of business, because about an hour ago, he was tweeting about how no Premier League club should be basically, no supporter of a Premier League club should be going to bed disappointed if your team doesn't sign Josh King. Just giving in the little snidey digs. It's like, mate, you're a football journalist. You're not a pundit. You're not a football expert. Stop giving your opinion. Just report the news.
Yes,
it bothers me that though,
Dave.
It really bothers me that when reporters think that they're experts on football and they can pass judgment on a player. Like, everyone's entitled to opinion, of course they are, but just the arrogance that some of them come across on Twitter. It's like, yeah, if I don't like this player, so I'm going to dismiss him going to any other club. If any club signs this player, then it's bad business because I don't rate him. It's like, mate, you write for a newspaper. You don't work in football, so don't say who's a good player and who's not.
He also said Delph was a good signer for Everton, which he hasn't been. Yeah, I think I'm quite happy with this one. I don't know if I think I was surprised that a few people were like, I don't want him, I don't want him, I don't want it to happen and all that. But when I seen it come out, I was pretty happy with it. I wanted us to sign him, maybe a few years ago while Bournemouth was still in the Premier League. But does signing King get us top 6? Good question. Does signing Joshua King get us top 6? Dave, I'll come to you first.
It's hard to second guess at the moment. We're a bit of a Jekyll and a Hyde, aren't we? We're not the only side that are like that. It adds goals, essentially. Sometimes we've struggled. Like I say, making the difference in some games. Obviously, King can, he will take shots on at the end, the edge of the box and stuff. So it gives us a better chance because we've got more goals that we wouldn't have had before. We haven't had that impact off the bench, so that's a positive. He can play in a few positions. I would say that it does. It strengthens our ability to get top 6 simply because of that impact factor and that. His numbers stack up in the Premier League to say that he would make that impact potentially.
Yeah, and he's sorry. Someone told me before to reset my router, but mate, if I reset my router, the window will have slammed shut and we'll be in next season by the time it comes back on again. I don't know if you can really say signing him gets us a position, because after that performance against Newcastle the other day, I don't think we're guaranteed anything. I think it can definitely help us, and I think it's definitely a good piece of business. What do you think of that, Paul? Do you think it's the type of signing we can get to, that can push us higher up into the European places?
Top and bottom of it is he a better option than St. Tosun is? And the answer is yes. So it, as you both said, it doesn't 100%. Guarantee us. It doesn't guarantee us a position, but it does improve our chances of getting in the top 6, and that's a good signing. Basically, if you're replacing a player with a better player, then it's a deal worth doing, unless you can get an even better player, and in this case we couldn't. So yeah, I'm happy with it. And if he doesn't work out, then he's going, and he'll go in the summer, and we don't have to hang on to him for longer than we have to. If he does really well, then he gets himself a better deal. It's a no lose situation.
Yeah, if it goes through, risk free is a phrase you'll be hearing a lot over the next few days, because this one for £5 million, which is nothing in football today, I think it's gonna be, I think it'll be a pretty good deal for us. 3 minutes until the window slams shut, but obviously it is going to be deal sheet time. We're going to have it. It's probably going to be confirmed probably tomorrow-ish if it does happen, or maybe really late tonight, where it's just one of them like lines on Twitter off Everton about, we've signed, and basically putting the fans' anxiety to rest. Stephen Bullock says King gives us options, so don't hate it. Few injuries currently, and we'll be lucky to get top 10. I think that's a bit. I think we'll get top 10, but I think, he does give us options. We do need it. More options and more goals. Yes, the impact off the bench, exactly, better than Tosun. Yeah, mate, he's 100% better than Tosun. If you think about it, we've, in this window, we've gotten rid of Balassi, who was dead wood. Tosun's gone on loan. Hopefully he stays at Besiktas past that. And we've got someone in to replace him. So wages off the books, and a backup for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, which at the start of the window would have taken. We've smashed 50 likes now, guys. Thank you. If you're enjoying it, make sure you like. We're going to be live for a bit longer, just to see if anything, any more news. Josh out. Stephen Bullock says better than spray on Tosun. Yeah, I mean, we won't be seeing Josh King spraying his hair on a Friday night ready for the game, but King is the last 30 minutes of a game when we can get a goal player. Even then, I wouldn't bet on him. I think, do you know what? Against Newcastle, we were crying out for someone like that, because we were half time. We needed someone to come on that was going to pierce that Newcastle defence and make a difference. And the only player we had was Anthony Gordon, who's played about 2 hours of Premier League football. So, I don't know. Really, it's I just think for me, I've got a good feeling about it, and on a 6 month, I feel even better about it. Go on, Paul. You going to say something there, mate?
No, Terry's cracking me up with his comments.
Right. I haven't seen any. I'm trying to read them all at once. Harry Connor says, will Keane come back because Poch hates him? To you. Oh, fair enough then. Will Keane come back because Poch hates him? No, I don't think he'll come back until the end of the season, and I think then we'll probably sell him on again because I don't think he's going to have much of a part at Everton, unfortunately. As well, wanted to mention to Dave, County Road Bob was responsible for the Moyes Keane banner, which was brilliant. Reading up a little bit more on that today and reading the thread on their Twitter about it. It's really interesting. So, go check out the County Road Bobblers on Twitter because you'll get to read a bit more about Moyes Keane, the banner, which you can remember from last season, which was really, in my opinion, a really good moment in Everton's recent history. It was brilliant to see. I was absolutely made up with it. Matty Flynn says, sell Keane and get a right back, maybe Lamptey. We do need a right back. What do you think of Tarek Lamptey, Paul? I don't think that one's going to happen, but if we're going to push for anyone, would you like it to be him?
I don't know a ton about him, to be honest. I don't watch a lot of Brighton. Not my cup of tea, their style of football, but I've heard good things. How old is he? Do you know?
I think he's about 21, something like that, if someone can let us know in the chat how old Lamptey is.
Well, yeah, that's the right age then. So we do definitely need a right back because I went into it earlier on the show with Oscar and Rose, the Leeds preview on All Leeds TV. I think Seamus Coleman is, if not finished, is very, very close to it. And I don't see a player there who's going to get much use of anymore. Clearly, Kenny's going and isn't going to be part of any future plans. Holgate is a competent right back, but is it his long-term position? Probably not. So we definitely need a right back in the summer, if not two, if Kenny's going and if Coleman gets moved on or really falls down the pecking order. So I definitely need a right back, but I am a fan of that Max Aarons at Norwich. And Ben Godfrey is on the sly doing a Morales to with Lukaku. He's bigging up Everton every time those two talk on WhatsApp.
Yeah. Someone in the chat there said Lamptey's a wing back. We need a full back. Cam, I agree with you on that one, mate. When we played them, I think he come off injured at half time, but he does look like a wing back rather than a full back. So, but a young player. I've just checked there, Paul, as well. He's 20 years old, so not even 21. Yeah, Max Aarons, I think, is going to be the best one for us, though. Max Aarons is a good shout. Definitely need a young right back with major pace. Yeah, and if he's cut from the same cloth as Ben Godfrey and what was his name? Lads who played the other day for. Was it Leicester or Newcastle? Oh, Newcastle. Can't remember the lad's name now. Someone will remind me. He had a pretty decent game. So, yeah. Hopefully that one happens. Sorry, guys. My camera might have gone off there. I'll try and sort it out now. Adam Peter. King scored 20 goals in all competitions 3 years ago. Yeah, that's 3 years ago, though, mate. But I still have a bit of faith that he could be a good player for us in the future. Celik, better option than Lamptey. Just move that a second.
Is he the Turkish lad, Celik?
He's another one that I think he's a good player, but more of a maybe more suited to the wing back position. The thing that worries, I just want to say on the Lamptey thing I mentioned before about the academy. Now, Lamptey left Chelsea on a free, and they had Reece James, and you've got two fantastic right backs coming through their system there, and again, they're producing a lot of great players. I know Chelsea have got a very good system, but they get players out at the right time. They produce that halfway to the first team, and the Lamptey question, my kind of slant on that is I'd like to see us, produce our own next. Reece James on our own, Lamptey, and I don't think we're doing enough on that front, and it could save us potentially long term a lot of money. Some of that's pathway, some of that's getting the right loan location, so players are actually playing as opposed to riding the bench. But I think you mentioned before, Aarons would be, if I had my pick, Aarons or potentially Emerson from Betis. that's part owned by Barcelona, simply because of his athletic size as well and his ability there.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'll ask you this, Dave, because it's something I've been thinking about quite recently. If a player goes out on loan and maybe it doesn't work out for whatever reason, and they come back with the stock not any higher than what it was when we loaned them initially, do you think there's an argument that maybe we should give them another chance and try them out again at a different club in a different position and see if they can get anything better? Because I remember Luke Garbett when he was interviewed on the channel back in the summer, and he spoke about how when he went down to Fulham and the loan clearly didn't work out the way everyone wanted it to, he kind of came back to Everton and just felt like he'd been completely forgotten about and that the management had just given up on him. And that kind of really affected his confidence deep down. And it just kind of felt like there was no way back for him. Whereas in his head, he was hoping that he could come back and there'd be an arm around him and they'd say, okay, that didn't work. Maybe it was the wrong club for you in the wrong situation. We'll sort something else out. And we believe that you can prove yourself better. I mean, it's happened with Virginia, hasn't it? He's gone on loan to Reading and had a nightmare of a time. But obviously, he's not getting discarded just yet. They've brought him back into the under-23 fold, and it looks like they're going to try and sort something else out for him in the long term. So do you think maybe if players go out on loan and they don't hit the ground running straight away, as a club, we're just too quick to give up on them?
Possibly. I think we loan people too late at times as well. You look at, really speaking, you want Sims really to be coming back last pre-season after a successful loan period somewhere, and instead I think he's been loaned too late again. Pennington's been loaned at quite a late age, and it's not really happened to him. Galloway was similar. So I think there's an argument there. You've got to get that loan location right. Obviously, Branthwaite has played 3 games now for Blackburn. I think obviously man of the match. I think he got the last game. I think the game before he may have took someone's head off, but they got a clean sheet. But it's clear straight away there that he's going to be playing. Lewis Gibson, similar, when he went to Fleetwood, he was playing games. They had that agreement. Obviously, Joey Bart was manager. Obviously, this time he's gone to Reading and he's not playing as much. So I think we've just got to do better at that whole system of how we choose where people are going on loan, what age they're going, and we've got to create that, that clear pathway to get into the team, because we're just not producing enough, I don't think. And even when we are, we're selling them for minimal fees. We're not really, we're not getting, big feet. Liverpool are selling players for 20 million, and I know they've got their kinds of premium as such because they're playing the Champions League and all that kind of stuff. But we need to be doing better with our youth system. We need to be producing better players, and that in turn, long term saves us a lot of money.
You back, Stephen?
Yeah, I'm back, mate. Sorry again. I agree with what David said about the youth system and stuff like that, though.
Yeah, because I've lost count over the last 5-6 years how many players who kind of got onto the fringes of the first team and maybe they came in for a game here or there and then they ended up getting loaned out and then they just never got near the first team ever again. And we ended up just letting them run the contracts down. There's Pennington, there's Browning, there's Galloway, there's Garbett, there's Callum Connolly. I could probably think of more examples, and I don't want to see that happen with Ellis Sims and Anthony Gordon. Johnjoe Kenny is probably the most recent example, and he played quite a lot of games for the first team, but they've gone out on loan, not pulled up any trees, all things considered. And it seems like everyone, when they've come back, has just kind of decided, well, that's it now. You failed your big audition. You're not going to get another chance. We're basically just going to leave you to your own devices. You can either just go out on loan again and run your contract down, or you can sit here in the reserves and just clean boots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've had too many of them in the past that have just been moved out eventually to lower, and as well, they're getting moved out, most of them, to then Everton. The majority of them move to the Championship or League One or something like that. So it would be nice to see one hopefully do well in the future, because we've had too many that are just moving on out the club with not enough, with not enough real full game time, and then not showed the quality. So I do agree with Dave there for bringing it up. Something's wrong with the youth academy. We need to see more players coming that are going to be first team quality for me. Paul Slater says sell Keenan, buy a brain for Pickford. That one's yeah, could do that. John's back there in the chat filling us in a bit more on Josh King there. West Ham cooled interest on King because they thought they could do better this window. They signed nobody. Yeah, and I think that's what we've done as well. I think we're scared of signing nobody, and because it's obvious Josh King wasn't the first choice. Joshua Zirkzee, someone like that was obviously the first choice. Milik and stuff like that. Yeah, this one it screams deadline day, but I prefer this one to, some of the previous deadline day ones like Enna Valencia and stuff like that. But yeah, it's not been completely confirmed. Looks like it's going to happen. Evertonian Luke wanted Garner back, lads. When I seen the Newcastle link, that would have been good business this month. Dave, a Garner guy, you'd like him back?
I don't know. We get romantic sometimes, don't we? With some of the ex-players that leave us. Garner was obviously excellent for us, outstanding. He was really got on with the lads in the dressing room as well, which always helps. And he kind of really embraced Everton. Obviously, PSG, we let him go because of fee and a move that he wanted. We're at a point now where he's 32. I can't say I've watched loads of him. I know he's not been playing too much. Again, we need obviously if it was a loan potentially, but we've got like 7 centre mids at the club. So we're trying to get rid of players, and then we're bringing more in the same position. Just not for me. I'm not denying he's a good player and what have you, but a 32. Gbamin possibly back in training. Allen and Akure. I think we've got to give them time to make that slot their own. Just not, yeah. I can see the merits in what some people say, but overall it'd be a no for me for Garner really at this stage.
Yeah, I would have taken him for 6 months maybe, or maybe just taken him back because we don't know what type of player Gbamin's going to be. I think Garner could still do a job for us as well. Paul, would you have liked to see that one?
Yeah, I'd have loved Gay back. He's not had any major injuries. He's an energy player who we really need in the midfield at the moment. He seemed like he was a really popular lad in the changing room. Good personality, who doesn't take himself too seriously. I definitely had him on loan for 6 months and see what we could get out of him, because I do agree with what Dave is saying. We do get too caught up in old romances sometimes, and we convince ourselves that something's a good idea when it's really not, when you think with your head and not with your heart. But sometimes those loans do work out. I mean, we brought back Pienaar, and he was great for that loan spell. He made a massive difference. He practically turned the season around. I know we bought him permanently, and then he went down after that, but that was more injuries catching up with him. But sometimes those loans back to your former clubs are really good. Robbie Fowler had a pretty decent spell when he went back to Liverpool after years away. There's probably a lot more examples I could think of. I personally would have been all for it myself. I think he's the exact sort of midfielder that we need between now and the end of the season, and maybe we could have made a more logical choice in the summer. But if Gay was available to take until now's the end of the season, I'd have been all over that myself.
A couple of people in the chat asking why we need him. Because Andre Gomez or Tom Davies are the other options, and neither of them are as good as him. And if he's available, I think we should have tried being all over that. So yeah, it's obvious that Andre Gomez has felt a bit. Tom Davies probably is not going to be. He's never going to be a Champions League caliber of player. So that is why we should have gone for Garner, in my opinion. I agree with Paul on that one. But Terry there, Garner could have come in to replace Gbamin, who that would have been it. He would have come in to replace Gbamin, and then Gbamin would have placed Garner again. So that would have been it. So yeah, people will question that one. But
if Gay came back, do you reckon he'd take his locker back off Gbamin?
You see me, guys? Yeah.
Yeah, you can hear you. If it's gone there, yeah. No, there's no doubt his ability. There was an argument, I suppose. Could you have made Olsen's move permanent for that nominal fee, and then maybe brought Garner in and freed up that second loan spot and maybe done more with it? So maybe it's something that we could have explored. Certainly if we've made our mind on Olsen now, just to give us that extra loan spot and bring a player in. couple of players in. But I suppose we've ended up with King on a permanent. So hindsight's sometimes a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Yeah. You raise a good point there. I was expecting us to make Olsen's deal permanent because it sounds like Ancelotti and his coaches really, really like Olsen and they want to bring him in. I've seen a lot of sources who are genuinely quite reliable saying that Olsen's impressed everybody. So the fact that they haven't done it leads me to suggest that they haven't made their mind up on the goalkeeping situation and they're still not sure if Jordan Pickford's going to be here next season, because I think if we'd have signed Olsen permanently, that was basically the club saying, right, we've got our two goalkeepers who we're sticking with. It's going to be these two. I wonder if the fact that we haven't signed Gbamin, so we haven't signed Olsen, makes us think, right, we're not sure if we need a new number one yet. Maybe we'll see what Olsen can do between now and the end of the season, and then we'll decide it. And if he's not what we want, then we'll have to go out and spend big on somebody.
Yeah. Just there from Alan Myers again. Everton have signed Josh King, just need the paperwork completed now. That's coming from Alan Myers. Another one you might be interested in there, guys. A former Everton player, Fraser Hornby, shares my last name. Only Everton player to have my last name, so I always keep up with Fraser Hornby. He's just signed for Aberdeen. Remember he went to Rame. Can't remember, don't know how to pronounce it. We got him out, and now he's gone and joined Aberdeen. So best of luck to Fraser Hornby. If you could come on the channel as well, a former Everton player, and chat to us to your namesake and me, then that'd be great. Should Odegaard on loan? I know he signed for Arsenal, hasn't he, Martin Odegaard? Paul, have you seen anything of him?
Yeah, he's a player who's definitely got ability. He's was this sort of like superstar in the making a couple of years ago, and he's gone to Real Madrid clearly far too early in the day, and he's just had his development stunted. But you don't know. I haven't read this, but for all we know, Odegaard maybe had some sort of deal in the loan agreement that they've got to pay a future fee for him. That wouldn't shock me because it doesn't look like he's got any future at Real Madrid, and he was getting touted around to quite a few clubs, and in the end, Arsenal were the ones who took him. So it leads me to believe that maybe it's not just a straightforward come here and play for 6 months and we'll see what you can do. I think Real Madrid, given their cash flow problems as well, I've been basically telling all clubs who are coming in for him, you're only getting them if you agree to buy him in the summer. So maybe that was something that put us off. It wouldn't shock me if that's what happened.
Yeah. Benny Beningame will sign for Derby on loan, just waiting for approval from the EFL. So that one looks like it's going to happen. Wayne Rooney making a couple of signings there on that day. It's interesting. Alex says, lads, have we got King? Alex, it's looking like it. It looks like it might be happening. Apparently, it's just paperwork or something like that needs to be done now. And then I think we do. Stephen Bullock says, imagine seeing that Lingard celebration in an Everton shirt. Would have handed my season ticket back until he left. Yeah, I didn't want to see that, and no one would. I think we can all agree we don't want to see that. Just come up on Sky there, lads. Everton have signed Joshua King from Bournemouth. Just popped up on Sky. Breaking news, Everton have signed Josh King. So, yeah.
Does it
Alex,
say the length of the deal?
There, mate. It doesn't say so. Yeah, Vinny O'Connor's talking about the deal. So, but obviously, I'm not going to say it on you, so I'll be able to hear it. I'll see if I can get some reading from him, and we'll talk about it a bit more. But just come up on Sky Everton. So that's good, because about an hour and a half ago, we all thought he was going to Fulham.
So going back to Lingard, I'm glad we haven't signed him for one reason, other than the fact that he's not very good. I've got a mate who's a Liverpool fan who for the past year and a half has been absolutely adamant that we were going to sign him because Everton always signed United rejects, blah, 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 blah. And I ended up kind of half getting annoyed with him and saying, okay, bet me a crate of beer that Everton don't sign him by the time his Man United deal runs out. And it looks like Everton are not going to sign him now, so I get a crate of beer.
Go on, Paul. You've hit us with the best deal of the deadline there, mate.
Yeah, Benny Beningame is another one, really. You know, he should have been on loan much earlier in his career. I know he's had a few failed loans, but we need to be shipping these players off. They're not going to succeed. I'm kind of glad he's got this loan move, because it did feel like he was going to be one of them players that end up in the Everton reserve side at 25 again. But you can see with some.
Sorry, Dave. I was going to agree. Yeah, Beningame was a weird one, because a lot of people at the club seemed to really like him. Unsworth loved him. Allardyce definitely thought he was a player who could have a part in the first team. Rooney's clearly saw something he likes, because he played with him in that season he was here under Allardyce, and he's took him down to Derby. So, bit of a strange one that. I thought we'd be seeing more of Beningame, but how many games did he end up playing? I think less than 10.
I think John can probably find out in the chat for us how many games he ended up playing. But I'm glad that one got confirmed before we went off the stream. I mean, I've been going offline all night, but yeah, it's good to see that we've that one's over the line now. According to Sky, Everton have signed Josh King from Bournemouth, so we're just waiting on Everton to tweet something now, a nice little picture of him with some maybe emojis and like a little article on about how he scored some goals a few years ago, and he's signed on a 6-month deal.
Well, we're not going to see him in an Everton scarf or an Everton kit, because he couldn't come up here to do the paperwork himself, and he clearly can't go out the shop and during a lockdown to buy something. So any picture we see of him is probably just going to be a stock photo, or just a picture of him in a selfie just pulling off a cheesy grin.
It'll be the same. It'll be the chance. Yeah, go on. Sorry, Dave.
When you were talking, Paul, before about some journalists giving their opinion. We've had that Matt Law fella who knows loads about football. I know he gets things wrong. He's tried to say Josh King hasn't scored a championship goal yet. There may be extenuating circumstances, but I really don't want to let it ruin your evening if your club misses out on him this evening. He's on levels, hasn't he?
That's what I was referring to earlier on. It's like, mate, like you're not a football expert. You're a supporter like the rest of us, is qualified to just write match reports for a professional newspaper outlet and get paid for it. But you're not a pundit. Stop giving your opinion as a pundit. No one's asking you for it. Stop just dismissing players just because it makes you feel clever. Do you know what I mean?
The fact he said there may be extenuating circumstances shows the fact that he hasn't bothered to actually go and find out or watch a game or maybe ask someone that knows about what's going on at Bournemouth. He's just thought, I'll just guess and I'll just tweet that out as my professional opinion.
One of the ones who's really bad for that is, I can't bear him, that fella who's I think he's the chief sports writer at the Daily Mail, that Martin Samuel, the Cockney fellow, looks like scruffy. Whenever he was on the, he's just a weirdo. He's a hippie. But that Martin Samuel, I remember once when he was talking on that show that Sky used to do, where they used to have the journalists sit around. I can't remember what it was called now, but he was on that. And
Sunday, I remember that.
Sunday supplement.
Yeah. It was. That was soul destroying, that program. How did that ever get on the telly?
It was on the telly for about 20 years. They started it years ago, but with the lockdown situation and the fact that the season was going to be so condensed, they basically just had to scrap it off. And the fact that West Ham's owners sued them for what they said on the programme once about them. They said, if you don't take this off, we're basically going to take you to court. And they had to put a grovelling apology on the air from Jeff Shreves. But going back to my point, I remember Martin Samuel on there once, and they were talking about the England managers of past and things like that, and how the media reports on the England team. And he basically said, I don't really believe anything England managers say anymore, because we had an England manager writing a little, doing a little piece for us in the paper once, and I asked him and saying, did you ever lie to journalists about players' situations? And the manager, whoever he was, said, yeah, sometimes, but you've got to protect players. But the top and bottom of it is, Martin Samuel basically decided, after that, I decided I'm not going to football matches anymore, and I'm not going to football press conferences anymore to listen to managers. I'm just going to write what I want. It's like, mate, it's your job to go to these matches and report on them. It's your job to go to these press conferences and get quotes and ask questions and to report what gets said. It's not your job to just sit on your ass on the telly. Sit on your ass at home, watch the game on the telly, write a match report, and then go on things like the Sunday supplement and make out like you're a football expert. So he was basically saying, I decided I'm not going to go and do a journalist's job anymore of actually going to matches and trying to find out stories. I'm just going to sit at home and write what I want. And that's just the attitude of them. It's like, who are you? Who do you think you are? You think you're some sort of football guru?
Paul.
I quite like the Everton lads from the Athletic, Greg O'Keefe and Paddy Boylan's. I think they put a lot of people to shame because all their articles are so well researched, and they go away and do all the statistical analysis and proper reports. And the likes of Ollie Holt and Martin Samuel, I think they knock stripes off them, and I think they really do put them to shame. And
yeah, I like Jonathan Liu as well from the Telegraph. He's really good. I believe that the Andy Hunt is a bit hit and miss. I know he's a Liverpool fan, but I don't think he goes out of his way to kind of run anyone down or anything, or just pull stuff out of his backside and print it like it's fact. I don't mind Andy Hunter. And I used to like, I can't remember his name now, Dominic King. I think King's he's had a couple of moments where I don't like what he's done, and I don't like the fact that he writes for the Mail, but I think most of the stuff he writes is quite sensible. So it's not all of them, but I think a lot of the journalists who write for national papers in this country, it's just the same old crowd who've been doing it for 30 years, who look down their nose at channels like this and other fan media because people don't want to listen to their crap anymore, and they'd rather just go and air the opinion of a supporter.
I want to point out there, guys, you mentioned Greg O'Keefe there and Paddy Boyland. Want to put a word in for Greg O'Keefe because hopefully he gets to see this, because he is obviously he's synonymous with Everton Twitter now. A couple of years ago, when I first started at the Toffee Blues, I was writing articles. I sent one of my articles to Greg O'Keefe, hoping that he might reply. He might give me a few pointers, and I've just gone and checked there. A thread of emails that he sent back to me telling me how I could improve my articles, and he read through the entire thing and sent it back to me with improvements he thought I could make. So yeah, want to say thanks to Greg O'Keefe, because he's a really nice fella, and yeah, he's a good friend. So talking about there as well, Paul wanted to mention Yannick Bolassi's Everton Twitter raid has not ended.
I saw that.
He's obviously gone out to Middlesbrough, and he's still tweeting about Everton, about how it's a good sign and all.
He tweeted Everton.
Looks like
Everton
it's going to
Blue
go
Army,
through
did he?
I think it was, yeah, but it looks like he's going to be. He looks like he's converted fully to Everton now. He's not at the club, and he's still there. Well, technically he is, isn't he? But he's and he's still replying on Twitter. So yeah, Yannick, you can come and sit next to me in the Gladys, mate. He seems to be he's not going to calm down with his tweets anytime soon.
Where do you sit in the Gladys, Stephen?
I sit right. So, but do you know that picture that goes around Twitter every few months about really horrible seat right behind the post?
Yes.
I sit about 3 meters to the right from that, so I know exactly where that post is, and that quite far towards the back, far enough so it's not a big long walk to go get a pie, but it's not like closer to the pitch as I'd probably like it to be. But I've got a great seat there, Lower Gladys. Where do you sit, Paul?
I sit in the Lower Gladys, and I asked you. I sit in tier 4, section 4, I think it is. It's basically row P, so I'm directly on the crossbar. That's my line of sight. But I was asking you because if you sit close to me, then no.
Right.
If you sit close to me, then no, Yannick can't come sit next to you because that's too close. I don't want him near me.
I think I'm GT7, mate, because I was right by the GT8 when the like the little standing section was going on. Yeah,
GT4, that's what it is. I'm GT4, so Yannick,
GT4 is a great little block.
Yeah, I've been there since 2004. So if Yannick wants to come with you, mate, and sit with you, then make sure he puts a hood on or something, because I don't want to bump into him in the toilets. Where do you sit, Dave?
I'm in the paddock. I was in Upper Gladys for years, top left-hand side, looking down. But I'm pretty much centre on the halfway line now. But I've had that seat we changed there in the Martinez season, the very first season for him. And I think I'm showing my age here, saying I moved from the upper Bratters to the paddock, but quite like it, to be honest with you. And got good friends of everyone we sit around now, so probably wouldn't be looking to move anytime soon.
One thing I've noticed, tell me if it's the same, because I've always sat in the lower Gladders, but for season tickets, I have sat at other parts of the grounds here and there for cup games and stuff. But I noticed that the the general attitude that a lot of Everton fans have got, just and how they view the game, depends really on where you sit in the stadium. I can sit in the lower Gladders and then sit in the paddock or sit in the Park End and have a totally different opinion of the same game. There'll be games where I think we played really well, or a player has played really well, and I'll sit somewhere else and I'll think, oh my God, like what do I think I'm looking at when I'm down the Gladders normally? It must be the same for managers. But when you think, how is that player staying on the pitch? Why is he bringing him on? What difference is he going to make? They're basically stood on the halfway line. They've got the flat view, haven't they? That's sometimes managers experiment, don't they, and sit further up so they can get a different view of the game. But I do notice that.
I was talking with the club the other day about this, about people missing the match and all that kind of stuff, and JT can top lads and what have you. We putting something out with the club with him, and just making sure he got the rightfully recognised for all the great work that he's done. And we were talking about what we all miss from the match, and I think everyone's match experience is different, isn't it? Like you were saying there, it depends on what you side of the ground you're in, you walk down to the grounds, what you do before the game. And I always quite laugh actually, because where we are in the paddock, because we're right next to the linesman, there's a fella who sits like 4 rows in front of me to the right, and he knows like every linesman's name. Like he literally not even knows the linesman's name, because I don't really, bar like Shaw Massey, who I know, I wouldn't be able to tell you any of the linesman's names. He knows that not only that, but he'll know their performance like the week before. So you're like, you know what I mean? He'll be screaming, saying, "You in the game last week versus," and he gave that decision. And I think, how does he know that? But you make sure that like we always have like a bet to see how long it'll take him to like fume at the linesman. Like sometimes he gets like 30 seconds in and he's like up already kicking off. Other times it'll go like 10 minutes. You're like, he's quite calm today, But your experience is different depending where you sit in the ground. But I think one thing sure we're all missing out. We're just missing them little things, watching the game and seeing them things happen.
There used to be a fellow who sat by me in the lower Gladders. He's not there anymore, but he was for about a decade. Don't know what happened to him. But me and Terry, when Terry used to come with me, we used to have a game. We think, how long is it going to take for him to yell, change it? Like, what minutes of the game is he going to yell at? And I think the record eventually got to about 15 minutes before the game was even kicked off. when the team came up on the team came up on the screen, and he went, "That's rubbish, change it." And me and Terry just looked at us thinking, that's never going to be beat. That he shouted that at quarter to 3.
That's brilliant, mate. Absolutely. It does definitely change though, and if you're an adrenaline junkie, then the top balcony is definitely your place. I sat there I've sat there twice. Once against Reading about 10 years ago, and the last time was against Lincoln in the cup at home. That was Bernard scored. I sat there and I must have had about half a metre of space. Like I had to stretch when I got up. Unbelievable how closed in you are there. I know it was built about 200 years ago, but people that long ago must have been really, really skinny, because I could not fit in those seats. It was awful. It's pretty bad, and you're sort of looking down as well. I feel like I'm on a roller coaster or something.
I'm not one
Benny,
for heights, me.
Sorry, guys.
I'm not one for heights, me. So I think I've been in the top balcony once, and I don't think I'd ever go back unless I was offered maybe a free ticket for a big game. But top balcony's not for me personally.
I'll never forget.
Paul, I'm not a fan of. Go on, mate. Sorry.
So I was going to say, I'll never forget the first season under Martinez. I went about half the first season without seeing a goal. Every time I got up to go to the toilet, we used to have the Chang run, so everyone takes turns a piece to go down like on 38 minutes to make sure we can get a few bevies in, so we don't miss having a bevy at half time. And it just became like a thing. Every time I got up, went to the toilet or went on the Chang run, we scored. And like the lads all behind me that didn't know them at the time were like, "Will you get up, will you, and go to the toilet or something, or go to the bar?" Because like when we needed a goal, it became like a bit of a thing.
Dave, Sorry, mate, go on.
Sorry, yeah, I'll just throw this in quickly, going off what Dave just said. I had a really good record at that. I mentioned to you before, I've been going the game in the lower ladders since 2004. I could not remember ever missing a goal at any game that I went to the toilet in. And I go to the toilet pretty much every game at some point. The first time I can ever remember it happening was Wigan in the quarter-final, when it was 1-0 down. We were 1-0. And I thought, that's it, I'm going to the toilet. And by the time I came back, it was 3-0. And that was the first time it had happened in almost a decade ago in the match. I can ever remember missing a goal, and then I missed 2.
That's brilliant. I did that last week against, I think it was Sheffield Wednesday. Yeah, Sheffield Wednesday last week. I went out the room for who scored the first goal from the corner? Was it Richarlison? Yeah, it was Richarlison. I missed Richarlison's corner goal, and I thought, this is it now. If I leave the room, we're going to score. And I thought, you know what? No, I'll risk it. I'll sit down because I wanted to see the other corner, because we just scored from a corner. I thought, I'm going to watch this next one. Oh, should I leave? We might score anyway. So I sat down and we scored from the next corner. So it just proved that me leaving had nothing to do with it. We're just pretty good from corners at scoring this season.
I'm laughing my head off here. You know, I told you about that thing before about that Paul Brown saying Josh King pushing for the England squad. He's still getting people. Someone called Raymond just said he's a Norwegian international. He just said, surely not Raymond.
I think it's still on. I think it's on YouTube. That famous. It's on YouTube, I think. It's that famous Talk Sport clip from about 15 years ago where some Scottish football fan.
Well, it's the best. Yeah, he's not finished. Yeah. He's 28. Oh my God, it's the best. The best one. It's amazing.
Yeah,
love it. Yeah, I think we've you got anything else to add before we finish up, because we've been live for quite a while now. I think we've spoke ourselves into the ground, and my Wi-Fi is about as reliable as Yannick Bolasie tonight. So. Anything else to add on, lads?
Yeah, just one last quick one. Blue Nose KD Dublin has asked in the chat, first game you went to, lads? Mine was 5-0 via Crystal Palace, the late 70s. So what was the first game you went to that you can remember?
Oh, my first game, I spoke to Terry about this on the podcast a few weeks ago. Birmingham, November 2007. I'm 20 next month, so I think it was about 6 or 7 when I first went. And yeah, Birmingham, 2006, 2007. I think we won 3-1. James Vaughan scored. Dave, I was going to ask you before as well. You mentioned there, Chang. Carl.
What was that, sorry?
We've lost sounds with you, Stephen. So go on, Dave. While Stephen's hopefully sorting his sound out, what was your first game?
Early 90s. Peter Beardsley scores a brace in the cup. My uncle at the time was playing for Liverpool around the first team, and he was trying to ship me off to start being a Liverpool fan, which was never going to happen. So yeah, I fella thought, he said, I'm going to have to do something about this. Obviously he bought me kids and all that, be watching Everton all my life. So he brought me to a game at Goodison, which is the first Orange. I think I remember the age. I think it was 8, and I just loved it. Peter Beardsley scored a brace, won in the cup game. I remember myself now, but I'll never forget that. That little moment where I had a bit of connection with my dad, and then ever since now, it's there's only been one club. There was only ever one anyway, but never going to
happen. My first game, my first ever live match experience of any football match was in the summer of 2003. Me and Terry got took by a family friend to go and watch a pre-season game at Crewe, where I think we lost 2-0, and it was just one of these games where we just put the B-side out. And the only thing I vividly remember was seeing David Moyes in the dugout with Alan Irvine with just a pair of shorts on, sat there like that. Because I remember thinking, wow, that's David Moyes in the flesh over there. I've only ever seen him on TV, and he looks so fed up and like he didn't want to be there. It's clearly a pre-season that's just been arranged without his knowledge, and he's just had to go along with it. But my first experience at Goodison was the league game a couple of weeks after that, the first game of the season. We beat, I believe, Fulham 3-1. I think Steve Watson, Gary Naismith, and I think, was it Unsworth who got the other one? I think it was 3 defenders who all scored, and it was a really great experience. And since then, I've basically just had to go to any Everton game at Goodison that I can get to.
Yeah, just missing it now. It's massive. You know, that feeling.
Yeah. I'm back now. I think me mic muted itself. Someone definitely doesn't want me on this tonight. Dave, what I was going to ask you, mate, was you mentioned there about I used to go for a drink and miss a goal, and when it was Chang. Do you prefer Chang, or do you like what we've got now, Carlin, since Chang has gone off?
I don't like either. I don't like any of them. Like Chang, you struggle to drink it in the 15 minutes. Like it's it's like that cold, and like Lukey's a drink. And I think they've got rid of it now, and they've got Coors Light. I think Carling or something like that. That's just as bad. So I end up getting a shorter half time now, just to try and take the edge off it.
Yeah. I was too young to drink with Chang, so I'd never tasted Chang. I'll have to do that one day. But yeah, I hope probably never. I've heard it's horrible. Just you mentioning there, Paul, about David Moyes, seeing David Moyes in the flesh. I've never mentioned it on the channel, but I had an experience with David Moyes. I was the Everton mascot at Anfield about 7 or 8 years ago. In his last season, I was chosen out the season ticket holders to walk with Phil Jagielka out the tunnel. So I walked out at Anfield, but we got to go in the dressing room beforehand. Yeah, David Moyes, pretty sound fella, but Phil Neville is right next to him all the time. Like, I was in that dressing room for a good solid 20 minutes, and Phil Neville didn't leave his side the entire time. And yeah, me cousin went to get an autograph from him, and his pen didn't work. And David Moyes got him an Everton pen off someone. And yeah, so that met him in person. He's a pretty decent fella. So yeah, but it is weird meeting the players in person. We'll have to do like a whole thing about it one day. Probably fit hours into that. But yeah, we broke 100 likes on the stream, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks to David for coming on. I don't know if it's your first time on the channel, David, but it's been really good to have you on, mate. So
third now.
Yeah. So third now. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we'll definitely have Dave on again. Been brilliant, mate. So yeah, hopefully everyone's happy. Josh King is an Everton player according to Sky Sports. So let's hope we see a nice picture on the Everton Twitter tomorrow morning. And yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed the stream. Thank you both for joining. Make sure you like and share it with everyone on the on social media. Make sure if you haven't liked the stream already, like it down below. It really helps the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you're new, you haven't subscribed. Why haven't you subscribed? You may as well. And yeah, thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you in the next one.